on this episode of Raised by Wolves.
Oh my God!
Holy crap, everybody, or for you non-believers out there, the non-holy kind. We have two awesome new episodes of Raised by Wolves, number 4 probably being my favorite so far, and there are a ton of cool theories and things to uncover, like who exactly is under that helmet,
I've had worse.
the mysterious inhabitant only known as the host, and who can forget this giant polyhedron? And yes, I haven't used that word since grade 10. But before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe so you're notified as soon as one of my Raised by Wolves videos drops. Paul is right where we left him, having fallen down one of those giant serpent holes in episode 3. He was following Tally, one of the first generation kids who had apparently fallen down a similar hole years ago. This seems to be a hallucination, as both Paul and the androids have visions of her. But how is it that androids hallucinate her? They're not human. They can't really hallucinate unless someone is perhaps hacking their system. And who do we know is a master hacker? CAMPION STURGES, Mother and Father's creator. Paul at this point still has his locator in him. Maybe that was used to hack him, or maybe there's more to Paul than we realize. We don't know much about his upbringing, just that his parents wouldn't talk to him, kinda like mine. Is it possible he's an android, or perhaps part android? Could it be that the show is misdirecting us to believe Campion is the Mithraic prophet talked about in episode 1, but that it's actually Paul? In fact, Paul brings up the prophet in episode 3.
The Pentagonal Prophecy, an orphan boy in an empty land.
Paul is technically an orphan boy in an orphaned land. The name Paul is also one of Jesus' 12 disciples, a disciple who famously went from non-believer to believer. Mother ends up saving Paul, looking down at this red glow at the bottom of the hole, which kind of reminds me of that warm red glow that emanates from the polyhedron. Before she finds him, she stumbles upon these hibernation pods used on the Ark. We saw them briefly in episode 2. Mother will later come back to this arc, finding the same exact doll Paul found in the forest in episode 3. She'll hook herself up to the machine, accessing the simulation, which looks like it too has been hacked, since it unlocks memories, some of which were archived by CAMPION STURGES. Someone is wanting Mother to get to that sim. Someone is wanting her to see those memories, and I think it's this person. He or she doesn't have a name yet. Marcus simply refers to it as the host. The host lives in a booby-trapped serpent skeleton and has been on this planet for a long time, keeping watch over the settlement. The Mithraic find these cards, sperm, family, 5-starred symbols. Whether these are from the crash or have been here for years are unknown, but judging by how fast this thing parkours its way out of there, it's likely not human. I'm gonna say this is an android, perhaps even an android version of CAMPION STURGES. The last name Sturgis comes from the Old Norse words for Thor and pledge, so we have a creator named after a god. Episode 5, where we see the origin story of Mother, kind of sets up a little romance between her and Sturgis, so having him return, even with the memories of this past life, opens a lot of story potential. The real Sturgis has likely passed. The show makes an effort to show him multiple times sick and coughing, also putting on a mask, leading me to believe he may have had some sort of radiation poisoning from the war on Earth. The Mithraic, in their search for the missing children, stumble upon this giant polyhedron in the middle of the desert. Justina over here remarks how it has 5 points, and she begins to recite scripture that the structures in the Holy Land will provide them with answers to the Mithraic mysteries. Perhaps this is part of the Pentagonal Prophecy, penta meaning 5. We aren't exactly sure what these Mithraic mysteries entail, probably why they're called mysteries, but it likely has something to do with the mysteries of the universe, the meaning of life, all that kind of stuff. The structure gives off heat, which they say is the power of Sol coming from the inside. This heat was also seen coming from those giant holes. Could this structure be somehow connected to those giant serpents, and did the planet once house many of these as evidenced by the multiple holes throughout the world? Regardless, Ambrose says this comes from an intelligent civilization. He'll later give the order to blow the structure to gain access to its heat, something Marcus uses to his advantage to overthrow him. Ambrose will burn to death next to the heat, a sign Marcus says is Sol's will. And this is good news for him and Sue. Ambrose basically found out they're not believers when he recited a Mithraic children's lullaby, something all Mithraic would know, and she had no idea what it was. It's here Marcus claims to hear the voice of Saul. Is it really Saul, or is it something hacking him? Regardless, the Mithraic bow down to him as their new leader, and they continue their search for the missing children. Mother has melted down the children's Mithraic emblems to create a scalpel, something she'll use to remove the location trackers implanted in their feet. We'll also see her healing powers here. This same scalpel will be used by Tempest to kill the creature and is also found in Marcus's hallucination at the end of episode 5. Is this one of Soul's visions that is foreshadowing something that will happen in the future? We see Sue covered in stab wounds by that scalpel and Marcus's head covered in this helmet, the same helmet we find attached to the prisoner in the back half of the Ark wreckage. This is Otho. His name isn't mentioned in the episode, but it's there in the subtitles and credits. He was convicted of sexually assaulting young women while they were in hibernation. I can't say the R word or else YouTube will demonetize me. Otho is the same person who impregnated Tempest, a Heliodromus, or the second highest rank in the Mithraic religion. He said he was told by Soul to impregnate these women, but as soon as he was captured, Soul's voice never came back to him. Soul seems to be a puppet master, using people and tossing them aside when they don't suit his or her purpose. That could explain Marcus's vision. He'll be corrupted by Soul, who perhaps will make him kill Sue, leading to his own imprisonment, whether that prison be literal or metaphorical. Otho is also tethered to Leash, or the limiting emergency automated servo habit. They spend a solid 30 seconds or so explaining how he works, basically a droid that will crush whoever wears this helmet if it dies or the captor tries to escape. This will undoubtedly come into play in future episodes, especially with the eventual Otho face reveal and Tempest seeing her assaulter is still alive. They're also kind of building up Tempest to be a killer. Heck, she's named after a violent storm. She ends up killing the creature at the end of episode 4, and she has this pent-up anger, so the question will be whether or not she'll go through with killing Otho when she finds he's still alive. Tempest so hates herself and the fact she's carrying her assaulter's baby that she tries to kill herself, a baby Otho believes is God's will. We're introduced to this device, a master cell propulsion system, basically a device which collects light and concentrates it into a highly charged ray. It's one of the only things that can take down a necromancer, which could be something similar to what CAMPION STURGES used to take down one and later reprogram it into Mother. If the Mithraic plan to take on Mother, as the end of episode 5 suggests, this is likely how they'll do it. We also see Marcus retrieve batteries from Ambrose's droid. These could possibly use to power this device. We're also introduced to a woman named Cassia. In Polish, Cassia means pure. Sue gets jealous when Marcus is given extra rations by her, so it seems the show is setting up some future drama here. I mean, just take a look at Sue's concern when Marcus says he hears the voice of Saul. I'm wondering if all this comes together and ties into Marcus's bloody visions. Mother is called out of her memory simulation when Sturgis tells her to rush home since one of the kids is in trouble. This is further proof that someone has hacked the system, someone who knows what's going on at the settlement. Who do we know that's been keeping tabs on the settlement? The host, or as I guessed, an android with Captain Sturgis's memory or consciousness in it. Sue and Marcus find Paul's footprint in the sand, leading them to the end of the episode. The only thing between them and saving their child is Mother, an advanced killing machine. So maybe next episode, we'll see this baby in action.
Run away! Run away! Run away!
Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment what you thought about the episodes below. You can also follow me on Twitter @ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.